We spend hours at the gym, obsess over our diet, and track every health metric. But when it comes to sexual health, most of us barely scratch the surface. What if I told you that the habits you don't even think about, sleep, stress, gut health, and the way your brain is wired, are quietly controlling your desire, pleasure, and performance? Quality sleep is one of the most overlooked pillars of sexual health because it directly influences the hormones that drive desire, arousal, and performance. When the body enters deep and REM sleep cycles, it regulates endocrine function, which includes the production and release of key sex hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, and oxytocin. These hormones are not only responsible for physical readiness and reproductive function, but also for motivation, attraction, energy, and mood. Even a single night of poor sleep can lead to measurable drops in testosterone levels, particularly in men, while consistently disrupted sleep can influence hormonal imbalance in women, affecting libido, lubrication, menstrual regularity, and overall sexual interest. Sleep deprivation also increases cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, which further suppresses reproductive hormones and shifts the body into a conservation mode where sexual drive becomes a lower priority biologically. Beyond hormones, sleep has a significant impact on the nervous system. Sexual arousal begins in the brain, not the body, and requires proper communication between neural pathways. During restorative sleep, the autonomic nervous system balances itself, reducing sympathetic fight or flight activation and increasing parasympathetic tone, which is essential for arousal, erection, and orgasm. Lack of sleep keeps the body stuck in a stress-dominant state, making it harder to become physically or emotionally responsive. This can manifest as reduced sensation, difficulty becoming engaged with a partner, erectile challenges, delayed orgasm, or lower emotional connection during intimacy. Sleep quality also influences mood and emotional health, both of which are inseparable from sexual desire. Lower sleep leads to irritability, anxiety, low motivation, and reduced confidence, all of which directly affect sexual drive. Good sleep increases dopamine and serotonin availability, supporting motivation, pleasure, and emotional bonding. These neurotransmitters are crucial not just for sexual response, but for creating the desire to initiate intimacy in the first place. Many people assume mismatched libido is purely relational or psychological, when in reality, a major factor may simply be chronic fatigue. Another subtle yet important factor is how sleep affects energy metabolism and cardiovascular function. Sexual performance requires physical stamina, circulation, and oxygen flow. Deep sleep enhances endothelial function, helping blood vessels respond more efficiently, which supports erections, genital blood flow, and heightened sensations. Poor sleep contributes to inflammation and metabolic dysfunction, which over time can deteriorate sexual performance in very physical ways. This is why people often notice improved sexual function alongside improved sleep quality even when no other variable changes. Behavioral patterns surrounding sleep also stack over time. Irregular schedules, late night screen exposure, stimulants like caffeine and alcohol, or elevated nighttime stress create a cumulative effect that suppresses sexual vitality. Consistent sleep routines help reestablish hormonal timing, circadian rhythm, and metabolic balance, making the body naturally more responsive to sexual cues. High-quality sleep also supports recovery after physical activity, which indirectly benefits pelvic floor strength, muscle endurance, and nerve function tied to orgasm and pleasure. The body is designed to prioritize sexual health when it is rested, hormonally balanced, and neurologically regulated. Quality sleep is not simply rest, it is the biological foundation of libido, arousal, performance, and intimate connection. Chronic stress is one of the most powerful yet silent disruptors of sexual desire because it alters the body's hormonal environment in a way that deprioritizes reproduction and intimacy. When stress becomes ongoing rather than temporary, the body continually releases cortisol, a hormone designed to keep us alert and prepared for threats. While cortisol is useful in short bursts, elevated levels over long periods suppress the production of sex hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. These hormones are essential not only for physical sexual function, but also for libido, mood regulation, fertility, and overall reproductive health. The more the body stays in a stress-driven hormonal pattern, the less biological energy it allocates towards sexual desire and performance, because survival mechanisms take precedence over reproductive ones. Stress also influences the brain regions associated with desire, bonding, and pleasure. High cortisol interferes with dopamine pathways that govern motivation and reward, making sexual activity feel less compelling even if the relationship or physical situation hasn't changed. It can also disrupt oxytocin, the hormone tied to emotional bonding and intimacy, making it harder to feel connected to a partner or to emotionally engage during sexual experiences. Over time, this can create a feedback loop where a person feels disconnected, less motivated, and less responsive sexually, which can then create relational tension that increases stress even further. Physiologically, stress impacts the nervous system in ways that directly affect arousal. Sexual function depends heavily on activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for relaxation, blood flow, and physiological readiness. Chronic stress keeps the body in sympathetic activation, better known as fight or flight. In this state, blood flow is redirected toward muscles and vital organs, away from the reproductive system. For men, this can lead to difficulty achieving or maintaining erections, reduced sensitivity, and premature ejaculation caused by heightened nervous system activation. For women, it can contribute to vaginal dryness, reduced arousal, difficulty reaching orgasm, and decreased desire to initiate intimacy. None of these effects stem from a lack of attraction or interest on a psychological level. They emerge from physiological responses to stress. Stress also affects sleep, which compounds its effects on sexual health. Poor sleep increases cortisol even further and reduces the production of reproductive and mood-regulating hormones. This combination intensifies fatigue, irritability, and emotional withdrawal, all of which can reduce sexual engagement. Individuals often interpret these symptoms as relationship issues or personal shortcomings, when they may actually be biological consequences of prolonged stress. On a behavioral level, chronic stress changes how people interact with themselves and their partners. It can lead to reduced self-care, emotional shutdown, avoidance of physical intimacy, loss of creativity in sexual encounters, and increased reliance on distractions such as work, digital stimulation, or passive entertainment. These habits gradually replace physical connection, not because desire is gone, but because stress has reshaped priorities and drained mental capacity for intimacy. When stress dominates the body's internal environment, sexual desire is not just reduced, it is biologically suppressed as a conservation strategy, altering hormones, brain chemistry, emotional connection, and physical function. The gut and genital microbiomes play a critical yet often overlooked role in sexual health because they influence hormone metabolism, immune function, inflammation, and overall reproductive wellness. The microbiome refers to the network of microorganisms living in various areas of the body, especially the gut, vagina, and skin. These microbial populations help break down nutrients, regulate hormone levels, protect against pathogens, and maintain tissue health. When these ecosystems are balanced, they support optimal sexual function, but when they become disrupted through stress, poor diet, antibiotics, harsh hygiene products, or hormonal shifts, they can contribute to infections, discomfort, reduced libido, and impaired reproductive function. The gut microbiome is deeply involved in metabolizing estrogen, and imbalances can lead to either excess or deficient estrogen recycling in the body, affecting libido, menstruation, and fertility. In the reproductive system, a balanced microbiome provides a protective barrier against harmful bacteria, viruses, and yeast. For women, this is especially pronounced in the vaginal microbiome, where lactobacillus species dominate to maintain a slightly acidic environment. When this balance shifts, it can lead to conditions like bacterial vaginosis and yeast infections, which may cause pain during sex, irritation, reduced lubrication, and lower sexual responsiveness. These issues don't always present with major symptoms and can go unnoticed while still impacting sexual health. For men, the penile microbiome influences inflammation, susceptibility to infections, and even the partner's microbiome during sexual activity. A disrupted microbiome can increase sensitivity, irritation, or inflammation that affects comfort and confidence during intimacy. Another key connection lies in how the microbiome affects the immune system and inflammation levels. Chronic inflammation can impair blood flow and nerve function, both essential for arousal and orgasm. It can also disrupt hormone messaging throughout the body, reducing libido and altering mood. The gut acts as a major communication hub with the brain through the gut-brain axis, influencing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine that regulate desire and emotional connection. When gut bacteria are depleted or imbalanced, the body may produce fewer of these chemicals, resulting in shifts in mood, intimacy motivation, and even pleasure perception. This means digestive health is directly linked to emotional and sexual well-being through biochemical pathways. Dietary choices play a central role in shaping the microbiome. Diets high in sugar, alcohol, heavily processed foods, and low in fiber feed harmful bacteria and yeast overgrowth, which can contribute to systemic inflammation and recurrent infections. In contrast, diets rich in vegetables, fermented foods, and diverse plant fibers support beneficial bacteria that enhance hormone balance, digestive health, and immune resilience. Hydration and adequate mineral intake also help maintain mucosal tissue health, which influences lubrication and sensitivity. Hygiene habits can also disrupt microbial balance. Harsh soaps, scented products, and antibacterial washes remove protective bacteria and change pH levels, creating an environment where harmful microbes thrive. Overuse of antibiotics, whether orally or topically, can wipe out beneficial species throughout the body, opening the door to chronic imbalance. Even sexual behaviors influence microbial ecosystems as partners exchange bacteria during intercourse, meaning the health of one partner's microbiome can affect the other's. A balanced microbiome supports sexual health through hormone regulation, immune protection, inflammation control, and optimal nerve and tissue function. Neurological health and dopamine balance are deeply intertwined with sexual arousal, desire, and satisfaction because sexual experiences originate in the brain before they manifest in the body. Dopamine, often called the motivation or reward neurotransmitter, plays a central role in driving sexual interest, initiating intimacy, and experiencing pleasure. When dopamine pathways function optimally, sexual experiences feel exciting, meaningful, and fulfilling. However, when these pathways are depleted or dysregulated, whether through chronic stress, overstimulation, addiction to digital content, or lifestyle habits that dull neural responsiveness, sexual desire can decline even when physical health and relationships remain unchanged. This makes neurological balance one of the most fundamental yet often unrecognized elements of sexual well-being. Sexual arousal begins with sensory input processed through neural circuits involving the prefrontal cortex, limbic system, hypothalamus, and spinal cord. These pathways coordinate emotional desire, physical readiness, and psychological engagement. When neurological signaling is strong and balanced, arousal transitions smoothly from mental stimulation to physical response. But when neurotransmission is impaired through inflammation, lack of sleep, poor diet, excessive screen exposure, or mental health challenges, signals may not translate properly into physical arousal or sustained interest. This can present as difficulty getting mentally engaged, trouble maintaining focus during intimacy, or reduced satisfaction even when the act itself occurs. Dopamine isn't the only neurotransmitter involved in sexual function. Serotonin regulates mood and emotional stability, oxytocin fosters bonding and trust, and acetylcholine influences nerve conduction and genital sensitivity. If any of these neurochemical systems become imbalanced, sexual function can be affected. For example, high serotonin from certain medications can suppress libido, while low oxytocin levels can reduce emotional connection and desire for physical closeness. Many people assume sexual issues stem from physical limitations, when in reality they may reflect neurochemistry imbalances. Modern lifestyle habits can erode dopamine balance. Excessive consumption of pornography, constant novelty stimulation, social media scrolling, and high-intensity digital entertainment can overstimulate reward pathways, leading to desensitization. Over time, real-life intimacy may feel less stimulating, because the brain adapts to high dopamine spikes and demands greater novelty for pleasure. This neural adaptation doesn't reflect a lack of attraction, but a shift in how the brain processes reward. Conversely, activities that naturally elevate dopamine, learning new skills, physical movement, exposure to sunlight, cold exposure, and novelty in shared experiences, can rekindle sexual motivation and pleasure by restoring sensitivity to natural stimuli. Neurological health also influences sexual performance through the autonomic nervous system, which governs blood flow, lubrication, erection, orgasm, and relaxation. A parasympathetic state supports genital responsiveness, while a sympathetic state prepares the body for stress. When chronic overactivation of the stress response occurs, nerve signals related to arousal are hindered, making it harder to transition from mental interest to physical readiness. This explains why anxiety, overthinking, and performance pressure can interfere with sexual experiences even when the desire is present. Nutrition and metabolic health also support neurological pathways. Omega-3 fatty acids enhance nerve membrane integrity, B vitamins support neurotransmitter synthesis, and minerals like magnesium help maintain nervous system relaxation necessary for arousal. Dehydration, inflammation, and poor blood sugar regulation can impair nerve function, reducing sensitivity or delaying arousal. Neurological health determines how the body interprets desire, processes pleasure, and connects emotional and physical elements of intimacy through balanced dopamine and other neurotransmitters. Pelvic floor strength plays a crucial role in sexual function and pleasure because it supports the muscles responsible for arousal, blood flow, orgasm, and physical stability during intimacy. The pelvic floor is a network of muscles that forms the base of the core, supporting reproductive organs and contributing to posture, circulation, and nervous system signaling. When these muscles are strong and properly coordinated, they enhance sensation and allow for improved control over pelvic movements. For men, a strong pelvic floor supports erectile function, ejaculation control, and sustained arousal by improving blood flow to the penile tissues. For women, it contributes to increased sensitivity, lubrication, and the ability to contract rhythmically during orgasm, which can make sexual experiences more intense and satisfying. These muscles do not merely support reproductive organs, they play an active role in sexual performance. Weakness in the pelvic floor can contribute to reduced sensation, difficulty reaching orgasm, incontinence, pelvic pain, lower back discomfort, and reduced blood flow during arousal. It can develop from factors such as aging, sedentary lifestyles, childbirth, hormonal changes, and lack of targeted exercise. When these muscles lose tone, the body may struggle to retain pressure, circulation, and neuromuscular engagement during sexual activity. This can result in diminished pleasure, reduced arousal, or physical discomfort. Many people assume these issues are purely hormonal or psychological, but often they stem from physical weakness in the pelvic support system. Improving pelvic floor health can directly transform sexual function by restoring muscular responsiveness and stability. However, pelvic floor strength is not just about contraction. Coordination and relaxation are equally important. Overly tight pelvic floor muscles can cause pain during penetration, difficulty climaxing, or erectile challenges due to restricted blood flow. This occurs when the muscles remain tense due to stress, poor posture, trauma, or excessive contraction exercises without balancing relaxation techniques. People may unintentionally hold tension in the pelvis the same way others hold tension in their jaw or shoulders. This chronic tightness can disrupt nerve function and make sexual activity uncomfortable. Healthy pelvic floor function requires the ability to engage and relax the muscles fluidly, supporting a natural range of motion during intimacy. Movement-based practices such as yoga, pilates, breath work, and targeted exercises like Kegels can strengthen the pelvic floor, but only when performed correctly. Strengthening exercises must be paired with breath control, deep core engagement, and awareness of posture to avoid creating imbalance or tension. For women, practices like pelvic physiotherapy, diaphragmatic breathing, and hip mobility work can improve circulation and vaginal muscle responsiveness. For men, training muscles such as the bulbocavernosus and ischiocavernosus can enhance rigidity and control through improved neuromuscular activation. These muscles directly influence how the body responds during arousal and orgasm. Circulation is another major factor influenced by pelvic floor health. Blood flow is crucial for lubrication, swelling of erectile tissues, and heightened sensation. Strong and coordinated pelvic muscles help pump blood into reproductive organs during arousal and maintain pressure needed for sustained sexual responses. This increased vascular support contributes to more vivid sensation and longer, lasting stimulation. Without proper muscular support, arousal may be difficult to sustain, not because of lack of desire, but due to insufficient physical response. Pelvic floor strength underlies sexual performance, sensation, and responsiveness by supporting muscle coordination, circulation, nerve function, and physical control during intimacy. Mindful, presence-focused intimacy emphasizes awareness, emotional connection, and sensory engagement rather than goal-oriented sexual performance, which can transform the overall experience of pleasure and connection between partners. Many people approach sexual activity with a focus on achieving orgasm, meeting expectations, or performing well, which creates pressure, reduces sensitivity, and shifts attention from authentic experience to internal evaluation. Mindful intimacy shifts the focus towards slow, deliberate awareness of touch, breath, movement, and connection, allowing the nervous system to relax and enhancing physiological responses that support arousal. When the body feels safe and present, parasympathetic activation increases, improving blood flow, lubrication, erection quality, and sensitivity. Presence during intimacy also enhances emotional bonding by increasing oxytocin release and strengthening neural pathways associated with trust and connection. When partners are fully engaged rather than distracted by thoughts, insecurities, or external stressors, the brain interprets the experience as meaningful, deepening desire over time rather than letting it decline. This emotional attunement can make touch feel more significant, amplify pleasure, and foster long-term sexual satisfaction. Many people experience a lack of interest in sex not because of physical limitations or relationship issues, but because they are mentally disconnected during intimate moments, unable to achieve the mental stillness necessary for arousal to build. Mindfulness increases sensory awareness by bringing attention to subtle forms of stimulation that are often overlooked. Small changes in pressure, rhythm, temperature, breath, and positioning register more deeply when attention is present. This enhances pleasure without necessarily needing more stimulation, novelty, or intensity. When sensory processing becomes more refined, pleasure derives from quality rather than quantity. This can also help individuals recover responsiveness after periods of low libido or stress by retraining the nervous system to register pleasure more easily. For individuals who experience performance anxiety, mindful intimacy reduces internal pressure by removing achievement-based expectations. Instead of evaluating whether arousal is happening fast enough or whether one's body is responding perfectly, mindfulness encourages curiosity and acceptance of natural variations in arousal. This can reduce erectile challenges, delayed arousal, and difficulty climaxing by breaking the cycle of stress-driven self-monitoring. When attention shifts outward to pleasurable sensation rather than inward to performance assessment, arousal becomes more effortless and organic. Breath plays a significant role in this process. Slow, deep breathing engages the parasympathetic nervous system and relaxes pelvic floor muscles, helping the body transition from tension to readiness. Matching breath with a partner can also synchronize nervous systems, increasing emotional alignment and creating a shared rhythm that enhances physical connection. Conversely, rapid, shallow breathing increases sympathetic activation, which can disrupt arousal or shorten sexual endurance. Conscious breathing helps regulate pace, sensation, and emotional intensity. Mindful intimacy also supports long-term sexual health by preventing habituation and numbing from routine patterns. When individuals repeatedly engage in automatic, predictable sexual behavior, the brain may stop registering it as stimulating. Introducing presence rather than simply novelty can renew interest by making familiar experiences feel alive again. This approach cultivates curiosity, exploration, and ongoing communication, sustaining desire across long-term relationships. Mindful presence Focused intimacy heightens pleasure through nervous system regulation, sensory awareness, emotional bonding, and reduced performance pressure, allowing sexual experiences to feel more connected, responsive, and deeply satisfying.